Hey there everyone, I'm Cassandra from cassandratindall.com. Today's video, I'm going to show you the exact processes that I have created in order to collate astrological data. So I use these processes to help me track transits, write horoscopes, work through my Golden Circle membership content each and every month, for client work, and even just tracking the transits of my own personal chart too. So this will be really helpful if you're wanting to learn how to get the data together in a very concise and easy way and use that data to refer back to it time and time again throughout the year. So generally at this time of year, so it's the 11th of March, 2021, I'm starting to pull together the data for the following year to write annual horoscopes. So each year I write nearly dropping it. I write the horoscopes for Australia's Wellbeing magazine. So it's an annual publication. So horoscopes for the year ahead. So that's what I'm in the process of doing. So I'm pulling together, even though we're in March 2021, I'm pulling the data together for next year. So that is one of the, I guess, astrological occupational hazards, is trying to memorize data from all these different time points. So what I start doing is, I'm a real fan of these kind of books, just these, cheap spiral books that you can buy at Officeworks or Staples, I think, if you're in the US. And I go through, so what I'm going to do is I'll share my screen with you and show you what I have written on this front page. So I'm going to share my screen and show you that. There it is there. Okay, so what you'll see here is what I've written on this front page. So I go through the ephemeris and I start with Pluto, and I track how far it goes in this period of time. So I'm looking from January 1 to 31, 2022. This would also be helpful, we're coming up for the Aries ingress. You might like to do it from Aries ingress to Aries ingress. Maybe you would like to do it personally, excuse me, from your birthday to birthday. Usually I find it's really helpful for bigger chunks of time. So once a year type stuff. So I'm looking for the planetary movement, how far each planet travels through the zodiac every calendar year in this particular instance. So next year, 2022, we can see that Pluto moves from 25 to 28 degrees. So instantly that tells me that those degrees are going to be the hotspots for Pluto in 2022. So if I have a client and they've got, maybe the sun at, 26 Capricorn, for instance, I know, okay, they're going to be in the thick of a Pluto transit. Then the same for Neptune. So it just started pouring down with rain. So if you can hear that in the background, it is Thursday after all, Thursday, and it's pouring, and the Sun-Neptune conjunction too. So speaking of Neptune, it moves from 20 to 25 Pisces in 2022. So of course, if anybody has angles, planets in that position, within that range of the sky, they're going to have a Neptune transit next year. Of course, Uranus goes as far as between 10 and 18 Taurus, Saturn between 11 and 25. So I work from Pluto sort of inwards and see what the big movers are doing in 2022. Now, Jupiter, of course, jumps around a little bit next year. It doesn't sort of spend its entire time solidly in one sign. So up until 11th of May, it is there in Pisces, and it goes through, I think that's actually 29 degrees. So I've made a boo-boo there. So I'll correct that in my little journal. And then it backtracks into Aries from 0 to 8, then comes back to 29 to 28, and then sees the year out getting as far as 1. So Jupiter is in and out of Pisces and Aries in 2022. Mars, it starts the year at 13 Sag and it ends the year at 9 Gemini. Gets as far as 25 degrees of Gemini but it retrogrades backwards. So we can say that Mars is going approximately halfway through the zodiac. So because of the retrograde, it is one of Mars's slower moving years. So of course, I'm taking in all this data. I'm starting to think about planets, points with people, what they might experience. I just think, say for instance, anyone who's got a planet between 10 and 18 Taurus, I know that Uranus is going to activate that planet, or if they've got other fixed planets, we're talking about the square or potentially the opposition. And so I'm starting to sort of think about, okay, what kind of events might happen? What type of feelings might the person experience? What's going to happen for this person when they have this transit? And so, of course, the same with Mars. It's going to, if you're thinking about your own personal birth chart, it's going to go approximately halfway through your chart. So if you have a Gemini, descendant, for instance, and it will finish the year, it's going to go halfway through the chart. So say, for example, Sag rising, it's going to start the year there. It's going to go under the horizon, finish up at around your 7th house. Okay, so it's going to track either at the top half of your chart, the bottom half of your chart, or maybe the left or right side approximately throughout the year, depending on where Gemini and Sag are for you. Now, of course, we've got another, for those who are more familiar with transits over the last little bit, we've got another activation of that sort of mid-20s Capricorn transit there, because we have Venus is going to go through Capricorn twice in 2022, starts the year at 23 Capricorn, still retrograde, okay, and then it will speed up through the year and wind up at 26. So a full circle for Venus. And then we have the Mercury retrogrades. I'm just going to see if I can bring down that view for you. Yep, I can. So then we've got the retrogrades happening for Mercury. So next year we can see that the retrogrades are starting to shift through into the Earth signs. So we will have each retrograde will be partially in air, partially in Earth as part of the crossover for the Earth retrogrades in 2023 for Mercury. And then of course I've got the eclipse dates too, which are slightly cut off on this view. So we can see we've got the new moon in Taurus, full moon in Scorpio, new moon in Scorpio, and full moon in Taurus. So all of those are either lunar or solar eclipses. So these are things that you can't do just by your software. You sort of have to pull the data, create it in a way that works for you. This is personally what I do for myself. And this becomes like the front page, I guess, of my 2022 journal. So the rest of the book will be filled in with other astro tidbits and information throughout the year. So when you have a consult with me, this is pretty much what I do. I rip out this book and I start looking at your chart against some of this data. But I get to a point too where it's already locked in my brain. But this helps me get the data together. So then what happens is that I will tend to start marinating this data. It'll take me a couple of days to sort of sit with the data, process it, think about it, etc. So one thing I did forget to mention too, very important, on my front page of 2022 is some of these outer aspect transits. So I'm just, at this point in time, I'm just starting to consider, okay, what are the big outer planet transits for 2022? And they are a little bit, I guess, except for one, I suppose, a bit more gentle than what we've had for the last couple of years, which is kind of nice as we move through. And Jupiter is a big player. Okay, so we've got Jupiter-Uranus sextile. One of my feature aspects for 2022 is Jupiter conjoined Neptune. So that happens at 23 Pisces. So of course, if you've got planets points around, say, 21 to say 25, 26 of Pisces, it's going to be a big year. We've also got Jupiter forming a general sextile to Pluto. And then of course we've got, you know, the second one that I'm really highlighting for next year, and that is Uranus conjoined the North Node, okay, in Taurus at 18 degrees. And that happens on the 1st of August. So that's a big kahuna, if you like. And then, of course, we do have another Saturn square Uranus, which is a feature of 2021. That happens at 18 Aquarius Taurus. So that's the 10th of October. Now, this transit, while they get close by degree, it doesn't actually become a partile aspect to the minute. That being said, it's still going to be an influence that is going to be ongoing. Okay, so a little bit more of that sort of shaking up, you know, August, October. So just what we can see there, we can start to even see what are the sort of big months of the year and how is that going to play into the general vibe of 2022. How's it going to play into your chart, all that sort of thing. Okay, so I'm going to stop the share now and I'm going to share my solar fire. So I'm recording this video for you. It's a bit of a different view from maybe what you're used to seeing in my office. You can see one of my little kitty cats there. That's Kevin, my black cat. So yeah, solar fire. So the next step is what I do is I get the more, I guess, precise data that you don't fully get in the ephemeris. And so I'm going to show you how I do that. So I do this each month and I also do it annually. So what I do, I go into transits and progressions, and you can create, and then of course, dynamic reports. And then you can create some of your own templates of how you want to break down the astrological data. Okay, so my location is Brisbane. Of course, you can do this for any location in the world. And this is what I do each month in the Golden Circle, because I'm sort of factoring various time zones. So let's just say we'll do, so this is March 2021. So I'll go in here, March 2021. And I just want 1 month of data there. And so I'll view that. So this will bring up, obviously not sun and moon transits because I haven't selected those. It'll bring sort of all the data for this month. And so I print that out and I do that obviously for each month of the calendar year. So that will give me more precise data that the ephemeris doesn't give me, especially being in Australia. And I'm writing these horoscopes for an Australian audience primarily. And we are in a different time zone to when the ephemerises are created. So what might highlight as say the 15th of March in the ephemeris might actually be the 16th for us. So that's, you know, if we're talking about a lunation or something like that, for example, that's important data. So I hope this is helping. Feel free to pop any questions in the comments, and more than happy to help you break down this, because, you know, for some of you, it's probably a lot to take in at one time. So the next thing I want to show you is another sort of piece that I create as a part of my sort of little creative project to wrap my head around the year. So what I do in Solar Fire again is I print a blank wheel. Okay, so I print a blank wheel. Basically that means, you know, I just erase all the planets and I shift the time around to bring Aries rising, because it's just a little bit easier for me to, you know, see it from that perspective. Some people like to go from Cancer rising and be in alignment with the theme of Monday, but for me it's just easy Aries, first sign and the first horoscope that I'll be writing. And so what I do is I sneak into my son's room, grab his glitter gel pens, and I do this little project. And so what I've done here is I've just done sort of like a bird's eye, you know, more artistic, not that I'm very creative in this department, but, you know, it does the job. I look at what all the planets are doing. So we can see that Pluto just moves a few degrees, which is the same every year. Saturn is, you know, obviously there in Aquarius. We can see Neptune is moving through Pisces there. We've got a bit of Jupiter there moving through Pisces, and then of course that retrograde back into, moving into Aries, back into Pisces and back into Aries again. Then we can see here Mars going halfway around the zodiac, and then of course coming back through that retrograde in Gemini. So that retrograde does continue through until 2023, stations at 8 degrees sometime in that January. But because this data is collated specifically for the calendar year of 2022, I've just ended it there at 9 degrees. So I just put sort of, where it starts, 13 Sag, all the way through to 9 Gemini. That's how far it goes in that calendar year. Here we can see Venus. She goes all the way around and overlaps by 3 degrees. Over here, it doesn't show very clearly up on the screen, is the eclipses. So obviously the Taurus Scorpio axis. And I've got the full moon there, 25 Scorpio, the new moon 2, full moon 16, and new moon at 10. So that's just what I do to help me absorb and work with the data using a few different systems. So sometimes it can take a few different, some people can just stare at this computer screen and figure it out. Me, I like to kind of get my hands into a little bit more and try different things. So when I'm actually writing the horoscopes, obviously this is the view from Aries, but then I can just sort of turn the wheel, and look at this data from various ascendant perspectives. And so when I do this, it also helps me look at, okay, well, you can see at a glance, okay, well, there's a lot of lineup here with planets, and you can get a bit of a feel for what some of those major planetary aspects might be doing, and what planets are interacting with what, and what planets are kind of piling up in one sign. Obviously, when I look at the 2021 calendar, which I've just got right here, so I'll pull it down and show you. The one I did for 2021 obviously looks a little bit different because it was a very different astrological year. Of course, the 2020, when we had everything in Capricorn, obviously was a very focused diagram with all those planets in Capricorn. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you something to help you in collating the data and working with the data. And it is something that I've done, I guess for the bulk of my astrological career each year, to see what the planets are doing. Obviously, using the ephemeris, using my software, but also, formulating a few of my own resources that I can just, and this I use this so much, this first page of my sort of 2022 book. And, what are the eclipses? I just open it up. When are the Mercury retrogrades? Just open it up. And it's just, this is probably my number one go-to out of everything that I do when it comes to working with the transit data from year to year. So if you enjoyed this video, leave me a comment, tell me what you liked about best, maybe share some of the things that you do when it comes to collecting astro data for different periods of time. And I hope that, helps you make sense of all of the numbers. All right, until next time, I'll see you then.